Um, I know Don and I, we go back and forth on this. We go back quite a while on this. I was never good at keeping track on mainline extensions and our projects. Back in the day, we would staple a form to a folder, and we would check off the whole procedures on dates and names and stuff. I wasn't very good at keeping track, and I couldn't wait to the day that we can take this to an automated form. With the introduction of our GIS, we kind of introduced that into a portal, which we now use. I can say that now it's managed through all departments. It's not just engineering, but also our customer service. They input that data, we share that data, we visually see it. So that now, I'm relieved to say that it's more managed and more up to date. I haven't seen Don ask for a status on anything, so that's a good thing. With our GPS sub-meter accuracy, we just upgraded to a Trimble R2 just last year. Prior to that, we had a GeoXH 2008, and anything that was collected on that data was collected, downloaded, converted, downloaded, and then uploaded to an AutoCAD format GIS that we had initially when we begun this. That data was then converted into the migration of our GIS. So there was a lot of processing involved in that, but that was the technology that was available back then. With the retirement of this unit, it's a 2008, so we're talking about 13, 14 years ago. It did great for the district. The R2 now unit that we do have now, it's all dynamic. Anything that's collected on a unit is now captured in our GIS and automatically updates our database. So very little time is spent in doing all the conversion and uploading and downloading. And what you see on the screen is the portal that we use. We can monitor how many meters or assets have been GPSed, and also the ones that are pending. I know there's some work to be done here because it says 56. I know it's kind of grown a little bit more with some meter replacements that have happened in the last few months, but we'll get that down to 0 here soon. Backflow management and verification. Recently we met with our backflow specialist, and he had a struggle in managing the backflow monitoring program. The more that were introduced into our system, the difficult it was for him to manage it visually. So our GIS department created a portal, an app to help him manage visually, schedule, and everything else in the program, excuse me. Thank you. Now the data that's collected will generate reports and help him easily manage the program. Yeah, before I jump into another department here, in the last year, we made strides in providing the tools needed to maximize our full potential, efficiently utilizing the GIS and the technology tools that we have available. We moved into the future with Portal and independently host our own GIS data. Soon, we'll be taking the district into the world of 365. Tony De La Rosa, he's been with the district coming on 2 years, and he's our GIS guru. And he has pushed the envelope in what we can do in GIS. And an idea is presented, and somehow Tony makes it happen. With the information that we collect from water production and GIS, Jennifer, our executive management analyst, creates that visual statistical reporting and analysis that helps us make smarter and better decisions for the district. Because I just want to thank the upper management and the board for supporting and trusting us in making an impact in the industry. I also want to just mention that the engineering department, along with Jennifer and Tony, will be presenting at the ESRI conference at the the ESRI Infrastructure Management and GIS Conference in October kind of showcasing what the district is doing in the GIS world. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Our
Yeah.
customer service improvements.
Can I ask some questions, or do we want?
Before, do you want to do it
it?
at the end, or can he ask George questions now?
Sure.
All right, go ahead.
So I was looking at the GPS sub-meter accuracy. So there's 56 meters that still need to be GIS'd?
That is a little outdated. There are 56 meters. It's grown to more than that recently. With that, we also have new mainline extensions that were put in the ground. That includes hydrants and valves. So it's probably around 100.
So all of these, the meters, valves, hydrants, check valves and all these things, they have a layer in the model?
They are
They have their own layer?
Yeah, we collect the UID number, the type, the size, all
So-
that's collected.
So how difficult is it to add another layer?
It's fairly easy.
It's fairly easy,
Sure.
it's not months of work.
No.
Is it possible to add, combine the meters with the current list of solid waste disposal people who have purchased and get trash service? Is it possible to put a layer on there that would, because you've got the meters, that covers all but Sheep Creek area. And then to cross-reference, would you be able to cross-reference those who currently have waste subscription? Would that be possible?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, so utilizing that, you could then go and look at where concentrations of areas, where areas are concentrated or not concentrated based on that, the spatial. You could probably figure out a way to introduce a methodology to expand the waste, the problems we're having with the new state regulations, and maybe develop a plan to integrate eventually the whole system into the waste disposal collection.
That's correct. Every year we attend the GIS conference in San Diego in July, and GIS affects every aspect of the business world in financial, in waste management, in infrastructure. So there is that possibility that we can start with and introduce some form of program.
Additional
using our
layers
GIS.
into the
Yes.
model
Yes.
that would encompass more than just the enterprise fund.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
That's fun stuff. We love to see anything populate our GIS, correct?
Okay, that's mainly what I was wondering about. So it won't be long before you have most of the system in the model.
When you say most of the system,
Well, I'm talking about valves.
It's all in.
The pipelines, everything is already in.
it's all
Okay.
in. It's all, everything that's been GPS, valves that have been GPS sets the alignment of the pipeline, locations of all our backflows, air vacs, hydrants. It's all been GPS. They all have coordinates. They're all elevated. We're at sub-meter, so we're within 3 feet of an asset. Now, if we can't find a meter that's buried in dirt within 3 feet, then we got to probe more into the ground. So
Okay.
we're pretty accurate on where our assets are located at.
Well, because I know originally we couldn't find meters and had the
Yeah.
back truck to try to find them, and so I was hoping that you were going to say most of the system is now, or as far as you know, all of the system is in the model.
It-
Okay.
And if I can have Sean make mention, every meter that was not found 12 years ago when we did the meter exchange, that were not in service, but just we couldn't find them, are now replaced.
Every single meter in the district as of right now is accounted for. We don't have any of what you're referring to, let's call them Z meters. None exist as of today.
Very good. And now the flow model is using this information in order to, or you're using it to figure out flows within the district,
Yeah,
to optimize that.
the GIS that was put together 10 years ago was used for the hydraulic model.
Right.
It's been updated, our GIS, along with our hydraulic.
Along with the model.
Yeah, we now use the extended period simulation. It's been about 3 years now, 2 or 3 years.
Okay. That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, as we move through the customer service improvements, we have the district-facing smart meter portal, and what that does, it gives district staff the analytical tools to monitor live usage on customers' meters. That early detection allows the district to reach out very quickly to customers if a large leak's detected. Customers have even called to notify us that they feel the portal has already saved them money and water. And then on the back side of that is the customer-facing meter portal. Last year, we launched the Smart Meter Portal, which allows customer to access their live data via their water meter and projected billing. The district is experiencing a huge outpour. A whole 1% has signed up for that feature. Tremendous numbers jumping on there, but we hope to, with some outreach, we can get more people to sign up. It's really a neat tool. You can set parameters for your bills or usage. It's just another arrow in our quiver we can give the customers to help them track their usage or set targets for bills. I'm on it every day. It's a great tool that we can give the customers. We see the trend increasing in paperless billing. We're up to about 19% in 2022 of customers that are utilizing that. And for park improvements, this one?
I think I'll do that. Sorry. Oh, the park expansion. Yes.
Which park?
We'll talk about the park expansion. We've been working with K2A with the planning and design of phase 2, phase 3, as we call it, of the 14-acre parcel. We should have something in hand probably in the next week or so and present that to the board. So we've included our consultants in this process, so park expansion is moving along here pretty soon. We go into park and community center improvements. If Steve was here, he'd say that we did the interior painted in the Pinion Hills Community Center. We had that interior painted here recently. The asphalt and sidewalks and table pads were replaced with concrete, and the Pinion Community Center ceiling tiles were replaced, as you can see. They do. And one truck was purchased for the park staff. You probably see him rolling around here in a truck. That one Ranger no longer exists. It kind of held together for a little bit, or a while a bit, for a long, long time. So the Pinion Hills parking lot repair, reseal, and restriping, that was done not too long ago. If you've been out there, we kind of tend to see like 2 to 3 years of this and before you start to see some wear on it. So we have a before and after pic of that. Next slide.
All right, I can take it from here, George. So we have a pretty extensive staff training and education program. So here you can see this was kind of our COVID year, so we had to do a lot of outdoor socially distanced staff training events, and this was on the day that we conducted kind of a scenario run through of our emergency response plan. And I think our challenge that year was zombies were coming up the pass, and we're going to be here, and what do we do? So kind of make it fun. We have weekly tailgate meetings with all of our field staff, and we have monthly special topic trainings with all of our staff. As just mentioned, we have yearly staff emergency and disaster preparedness training. All of our staff are CPR and first aid trained, including heat illness related training, which has been very helpful for this week. We also have year-round training on just specialized topics. So anytime anybody's interested in a special training, we can assign that free of charge to our insurance. All of our lead staff participate in a 10-hour OSHA training. Currently, our stats this year are we have 4 associate degrees in hand with 1 in progress, 8 bachelor degrees in hand with 3 in progress, 1 master's degree in hand with 2 master's degrees in progress. Thank goodness we have 2 notary publics now. I used to be only 1, and we have a lot of liens that we process, and very glad we have another one. 6 of our staff members have Class A licenses, and we have a very highly certified staff for water. We even have a T4, 1 staff member. 6 staff members have their T2, 4 have their T1. We have 1 D5, 4 D4s, 2 D3s, 4 D2s, and 3 D1s. And all of our staff that work in the field are required to have a minimum of a D1 and a T1. And that is all I have for you. Any questions? All right. I would like to say that the engineering GIS department has been very helpful with HR in terms of the vehicle logs, because I do all of our OSHA reporting and coordinate our inspections for that. And so having that automated now and at the click of a button to get reporting has been very helpful. And they're under development, because this has worked so well, they're developing an incident report that's going to work similarly. So those can all be channeled to me, and we don't have to go through our paper process. And it'll be nice to pull data to see who are my biggest offenders with incidents and what are our biggest incident types. So it's going to be really nice data to have that's no longer manually compiled. So thank you, George, and your team.
Very nice. Thank you. Do any of the directors have any questions? No? All right.
Good job, everyone.
Yep.
Thank you.
Nice work.
Don, you have a great staff.
Yeah, I would like to say that we have one of the best trained staffs up here in the high desert or any other district. Our GIS system is amazing with the way we've come over the past 10 years. It's just, instead of having papers stuck in a file cabinet where you never do anything with, that was always my pet peeve. We're able to actually utilize that information now. Thank you, George. Thank you, Sean.
Jim, we can walk up the aisles now?
Yes, almost all of the file cabinets that are in the office will be gone.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Digitize everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
wonderful.
All right. Thank you very much again. All right. We are going to move on to 6C. He's whispering in my ear. Does anyone out here have any questions on that beautiful presentation? Nope. Okay. Thank you, Mark. All right. I'm just so excited to keep going. 6C, update on the status of negotiations for the consolidation of Sheep Creek Mutual Water Company. Mr. Bartz.
Thank you, and I look forward to taking this item off future agendas. I'd like to kind of report where we're at. For those of you who have not been following it, we've been in the process for the past couple of years looking at a consolidation with Sheep Creek Water District and the CSD. The state put Sheep Creek under a moratorium. They did not meet their maximum day demands and some other deficiencies in the system. And the state offered to put some money into the game for the Pinion Hill CSD to consolidate with Sheep Creek and join the 2 systems together. The state was proposing about $20 million worth of improvements that would not have to be paid for by the Sheep Creek customers. It would have benefited both districts. There were a number of things as far as shared assets. We need additional tanks. They need additional wells. The state was willing to pay for a lot of these improvements, including physically tying the systems together, upgrading the systems with Sheep Creek to the new meter systems, the GIS system that we have, and also the SCADA system for operation of the wells and the tanks. But recently, there was a discussion held, I did talk to, we've had weekly meetings with the state for the past couple of years. Over $1 million was put into this study. They were up to the 60% engineering point to where they were ready for actual construction drawings to get this rolling. The issue came up of Sheep Creek didn't want to part with their water rights without somebody paying for them. And they wanted $12.4 million to buy out the water rights. My discussion with Dave Nilsson, who is one of their board members and well-known in the community, said that his proxies would not approve that type of a consolidation if they were not bought out for their water rights. The proposal that Rebecca and I had put together and talked to a couple of their board members about was that the consolidation could occur, the $20 million could come into the community, but each one of the meters on the Sheep Creek system would have to bring in some water that comes with theirs. You know, the system comes over, nobody gains anything by owning the system, but we do maintain it. So we made the suggestion that 3 shares worth of water rights would need to come over with each meter, and that would be the equivalent of about 1 acre-foot of water, which we require when somebody connects to our system. They pay approximately a $10,000 connection fee. About half of that goes to the system improvements, the improvements that have already been made in the system. You have the wells, the tanks, the water lines, the fire hydrants, the meter installations, all of that. And there also needs to be some water rights purchased or acquired to serve that customer. Everybody's got to have their own bit of water that they bring to the table. Dave Nilsson said the proxies that he is in control of would not support that. They wanted to be bought out for the water rights, 3,000 acre feet of water rights at $4,750 an acre foot. And without that, they walked. So as of right now, the project is ended. The state has cut off all funding. All engineering services have ceased. And $20 million worth of improvements are going somewhere else. It will not come to this community at this point. In my estimation, this is a missed opportunity for the community. And we're moving on. Sheep Creek's gonna move on and start drilling their own wells. They will probably have, just this kind of goes into what everybody else is here for tonight, a moratorium for the next couple of years. They have to drill a minimum of probably 2 wells, maybe 3 wells they're gonna have to drill before they can get that the moratorium lifted and they can start issuing water meters again. Dry years have dried up the canyon, and at this point, they didn't have enough water to meet their maximum day demands, which is the usage of the customers, fire flow, and then a kind of a cushion on top of that. So at this point, I don't know if I'm happy to announce that, but the staff is not going to be devoting any more time to this, and I'm recommending that we do pull it off the agenda. If we do hear back, if something changes with this, we will bring it back to the board. But right now, the state has cut off all funding, and we're done. And I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any questions.
Sad news.
It is sad news. It's a missed opportunity for the community.
It is.
No doubt.
It's got a tremendous effect.
So
on
and to go a little bit further, the improvements that were proposed by the state to consolidate the 2 systems, about $15 million of that was for improvements on the Sheep Creek system. So as time goes on, I don't know that they can ever afford to make all of the improvements that the state was going to do as part of that, but they will have at least just the very beginning, probably $4 to $5 million worth of wells that they will have to assess their customers to drill those wells just to get it back to where they can lift the moratorium. And then the other tank improvements and everything else, if they decide to fund those in the future, they will have to determine how that's going to be funded. But it is a hit to the community, no doubt.
So at a minimum, it could be 2 years, probably.
Yeah, and I'm estimating if they start drilling, they want to start drilling right away. They have CEQA done on a couple of sites. I would say 2 years at best. I mean, you can have great plans and it's all going to happen within the next 6 months. That's not going to happen. You've seen how long it's taking us just to drill our well 15 that we have going right now, which, happy to say, will be started in October. Probably mid-October, we'll be drilling.
Okay,
Okay.
awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions from directors? No? Any questions?
Yes, I got a question.
Excuse me, can you please use the microphone?
Now we can all hear you.
Okay, good evening. There's sources on, social media in regards to a distribution center being built on the corner of Beakley and the 138. Is there any,
Yeah, we will be, that's actually going to be the third item that we talk about
Okay.
tonight. And there'll be plenty of time, we look
and
forward
how
to.
that, and how that would tie into the water and,
Absolutely.
Okay.
We'll cover anything that you want to talk to about that
Yeah.
and whatever we can cover.
All right. Okay. So with that, were we going to do B first, or do you
Yeah,
want
let's
to
go
move
ahead
on
and
to
take
A?
your 6B. George is
All right.
looking forward to the update
Is
on
it,
that.
okay, update on proposed Civic Center and Phelan Park, what park expansion project, Mr. Cardenas.
Well, let me get,
Sorry, couldn't
Thank you.
resist.
it's the park thing, I think. Well, let me just jump into the Civic Center project first. Stino and the district met with the county mid-August to discuss the process for, or where it's at with the plan checks and where we're at in the process. We made some good headway with conversation with Heidi Duran, who is our new senior planner, with our prior planner, retired since. Jim Morrissey, who was with this whole process, is a hit and miss in when we can get his attention. But in those 2 weeks after our meeting with Heidi, a lot of progress has been made. Jim Morrissey just noticed us that the CEQA advertisement for the revision of the 5-acre site, and that's the revision to the approved CUP, will be advertised next week, which is good. We've been asking that question for a while, but there's been a lot of uncertainties of where other things were to do this. We also got notice that the Joshua Tree ITP, that's the incidental take permit, was completed. And this is for the park. That's kind of integrated with the grading and the Joshua trees that impact the grading for the Civic Center. That should be completed by the end of September and ready to submit to the state. There's some fees that are going to be anticipated for review. So we're kind of anticipating to get that up and rolling. All the plans have been through the process. There's a lot of here and there of what they're waiting for, and that's been the delay in this process for the Civic Center. We're all now on the same page. They've initiated a couple things that we've been asking for, and that's a sign that we're moving forward. One is the pending the easements for the access to the park, just north of our site. So county right-of-way is waiting for those easements so they can initiate the abandonment of Sahara Road behind us. With the park, like I just mentioned, with, let's call this phase 2, phase 3 of the project, phase 1 being the Civic Center. We are hoping to have something in hand by the end of this week, a proposal from KTOA for the 60% design. This is really to get into the CUP portion of the approval of the project. That's kind of one of the hiccups that we had with the county on, well, we need to know what this is going to look like. And we don't have an approved CUP for this, so they're willing to kind of move forward with it with the anticipation of the submittal. We should have something in place here, probably in the next few months, submitted to the county, right? We're dumping everything into their lap, into the portal for them to review, with the park being said. With that, I don't have any much more to report unless you have any questions for us.
All right, questions?
No, thank you.
No?
No.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on to 6A, discussion and possible action regarding out-of-district service request for APN 3066-19103. Mr. Bartz.
Thank you. I'm sure this is the one that everybody is waiting for and probably online too. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background first. Some people may not have the agendas and the background on this, but the CSD received a formal request to serve this parcel. This parcel is at the intersection of Beakley Road and Highway 138, and it's a 90-acre parcel. And if anybody has seen this parcel, it is absolutely covered with Joshua trees. It's like a Joshua tree refuge up there. So when George is talking about the issues that we face with our park here and the 170 Joshua trees that we have,
We're dealing with 157 Joshua trees. to be
157
exact.
Joshua trees, and getting a take permit for those, you can see how long this process is taking just to even get through the state with that. So just to set the stage for kind of what the parcel looks like. This is within the Sheep Creek Water Company boundary, which is also within our boundary. Our boundary covers Sheep Creek Water. So as part of the consolidation, this would have been part of the consolidated area. The parcel is zoned single-family residential, and Sheep Creek has issued a no objection letter granting permission for the parcel to be served by the district. This has happened several times in the past, and we'll talk about how many times that we've either served out or they've served out of district. In late 2018, the State Water Resources Control Board issued a compliance order to Sheep Creek Water Company for violating the California Health and Safety Code for deficient water source capacity. This is why we just talked about the consolidation issue with Sheep Creek, that they were not able to meet the capacities that they were required to by the state. A service connection moratorium was issued, which states Sheep Creek shall not allow any additional service connections to its water system, including any such service connections for which a will serve letter issued at any time until it meets its adequate source supply capacity and meets the system's highest maximum day demand. Again, going back to Sheep Creek drilling their own wells, it's probably going to be, I'll be gracious and say, a year to 2 years before Sheep Creek Water can get their wells online and be able to lift this moratorium. So at that point, by the time that's done, this may not even be an issue. It may be able to be served by Sheep Creek. The nearest Sheep Creek Water Company pipeline is located east of the parcel on Hollister Road, Nilson Road, and Sunny Slope Road. The nearest district's water pipelines to the parcel are located east on Mango Street, which is an 8-inch, and south on Sunny Slope, which is an 8-inch AC pipe. On May 18th, 2018, the district's Board of Directors adopted Resolution 2018-05, establishing policy number 7200, out-of-district boundary water service. Currently, the district serves 12 parcels outside of its service boundary, 10 of which were served prior to the formation of the district, which was in 2008. The most recent out-of-service request approved by the board was for the Chevron station on Beakley Road and Highway 138, and that was in 2017. So that is directly across the street to the west of the parcel that we're talking about tonight. The property owner provided a fee of $200, and this is for staff time to process this application and to prepare it for the board. And so what I want to just give a little bit of an overview too, and one of the questions that I know that is going to come up tonight is the district does not have land use powers. That is with the county for zoning, what can go where. The district does not have those powers. We have water, street lighting, solid waste, and Parks and Rec. Yes, sorry, forget the Parks and Rec. So what would happen in this process if the board were to approve this letter tonight? Before any construction could be done, they would have to come back to the board to get permission to install the meter. So what we're looking at tonight is a will serve letter, but there's still a lot more work that would need to be done. The meter that's being requested for this is on page 84, and there's a breakdown of what the costs are and what it is. And this is a 1-inch meter. A 1-inch meter would serve a new house with the fire service that's required for a new house. So that is the 1-inch meter. If there were anything additional beyond that, that obviously would have to come back to the board for future discussion too, because you would need much more capacity in the system. You'd have to have probably 8 or 12-inch lines serving that property for fire protection, depending on the use of the property. And that would be a long process. If you were to start on a project like this today, you would look how long it's taken us to do our the Civic Center project and the park project. You're looking at years to develop a project like this. In the time that that would happen, Sheep Creek will probably have their moratorium lifted, and there's a possibility that they would be required to connect to the Sheep Creek water system. Looking at page 85, line 4, should Sheep Creek Water Company construct a water main line within Beakley Road, Sunny Slope Road, or Mango Road, the property owner at that time will be required to establish service with Sheep Creek Water District. So in that time frame, you're probably looking at realistically going back to Sheep Creek Water District just in the time it would take to do that. For a substantial project like that, as I said, it would take a lot of infrastructure to do that, and that there would be negotiations back and forth on how that would go, but in my opinion, it would probably go back to Sheep Creek Water District to provide that water. But what they're asking for tonight, Bob Howard is here tonight, the owner of the property, and he's willing to answer any questions probably that the board would have. But I just wanted to kind of frame what this project actually looks like, what it is and what it isn't. At this point, the district is not approving a Walmart distribution center, an Amazon center, or a truck stop.
Yeah.
So what they're looking at right now is a will serve letter for the parcel so they can look at future development for this parcel. Now, if the board has any questions, I would be happy to answer them or turn it over to the
Okay.
president.
Deborah, let's start with you. Any questions?
Not right now, no. You fill in a lot of them.
Okay, Mark?
Well, are we now discussing the complete item? Is that?
I would say we need to add to public and then maybe
Yeah.
discuss after.
Okay,
I agree.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
sure.
All right, okay, so we will start with the public that is here in person. If you have a question or comment on this item, please step up to the microphone. Nope. Okay, let's go with online then.
Okay, so I'm going to go down the list on Zoom. Ralph, do you have a comment on this item? If so, please unmute yourself. Okay, Corey's iPhone 2, do you have a public comment on this item?
No.
Thank you. Unnamed iPhone. Okay. I have another unnamed iPhone. Cheryl Roden, do you have a comment on this item?
Yes. A question and a comment. What is the implication of a will serve letter? You mentioned that it would have to come back. At that point, can the CSD still deny a request for service, assuming that Sheep Creek has not completed its wells and or had its moratorium, and then a comment after that and answer?
I'm going to hand this one straight over to Steve Kennedy. I think I would just like to say that the district would have to review exactly what was being proposed at the site, and the district would have the opportunity, but I do want to let legal counsel weigh in on that.
Yeah, I think it would be very fact dependent about whether or not there would be an opportunity for the district to re-review that application. So I'm a little reluctant to say what the district would or wouldn't do. I think it's something that would be on a case-by-case basis in reviewing that request and that status of water service at that time.
All right, then my comment is, if I may, to urge you to vote against this request, even though by all accounts, Mr. Howard is a really good guy. I hear that from people, and I'm sorry to say this. In light of the consolidation discussions falling apart, My concern is that we are going to get ourselves into a position of one after another of these requests. And perhaps the board wants to review its out of district policy in light of the fact that Sheep Creek's withdrawn from the negotiations. But in the absence of the adequate wells, we can't keep taking on Sheep Creek customers, as compelling as that is, because they are our neighbors. And I'm concerned, about our community, and I want to commend Mr. Bartz and staff for the effort you put in these last few years in these negotiations. You brought back a really great deal, and I'm sorry the Sheep Creek board decided to walk away from it. But I do not see that the CSD can take on these obligations, which are Sheep Creek's obligations, in the absence of the adequate wells and the absence of the water rights that go with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roden.
Okay, Beth, do you have a comment on this item? Just unmute yourself. You're muted. You're still muted. There you go.
Sorry, I guess I was muted. We just want to thank John for making it so clear for us to understand.
Thank you.
Okay, next I have Richard Austin. Do you have a comment on this item? If so, unmute yourself.
I just got a question. This may be too early in this, and maybe I'm not even be the right people to speak to, but what environmental impact studies have been done or plan to be done as to how that's going to affect the local residences, streets, etc. in the area, if they are going to bring in this type of a business in there? Is it this group's, to cover getting that study, or am I in the wrong group for that?
Yeah, this is Don Bartz. I'll go ahead and answer that. That when it goes through the county, through planning and land use, they would have the requirements for CEQA, and which would encompass everything as part of that project. The CSD does not have any jurisdiction over that portion of it.
Do you want to mention now, maybe for future comments, that it's just listed for sale? I mean, there is no imminent plan for anything.
Yeah, Director Hoffman did bring up a point. The property is currently for sale. I'm not sure how long it's been listed, but I think it's recently on the market. So at this point, there is not a plan in place that I'm aware of for developing this project, other than the project being for sale.
Thank you.
Okay.
Wendy Walker, do you have a comment on this item? If so, unmute yourself.
Not at this time, thank you.
Anne, no last name listed. Do you have a comment on this?
Yes, I do. I concur with Cheryl. And I also have a question about, since it was just mentioned that the property is for sale, would our special district have any sort of interest in purchasing the property, since it is a beautiful, beautiful area filled with Joshua trees, excuse me. It could become a park, a natural, like a botanical garden, or I don't know, like a California native plant park or something, which actually could be kind of a draw for this area. I'm sorry, what?
I think that was just feedback from someone else's phone. Go ahead, Ann.
Okay, well, since it's for sale, could that be a possibility?
Well, the district is in the process right now. I don't know if you saw the presentation earlier. We have about a $30 million park project that we're looking at on some properties that are adjacent to the Civic Center here at the park, or at the CSD. With that being $30 million, we would not have the funding for purchasing anything like that unless if Mr. Howard wanted to donate the property to the district. We could certainly make it some nice walking paths through there. But at this point, we wouldn't have the funding to purchase something like that. But I do like the idea. It is a beautiful property.
Excuse me, what if Snowline School District wanted an outdoor lab for science or geology or something like that?
We could absolutely pass that on to Dr. Holman.
It's just, to me, it's a shame to not only lose that beautiful area, but to know that a distribution center is absolutely not what we need out here. So that's my voice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and our final one on Zoom is B.A. Do you have a comment on this? Okay.
I would like to make a comment too. I did speak to Don Slater tonight for about a half an hour before the meeting. I gave him some additional information on this project, and he said he's interested in the project, wants to know more about it, but at this point he does oppose the project.
Okay, thank you.
1 second. Meredith, did I forget you?
Yes, I won't take it personal.
Sorry about that.
I don't really have anything to say about the project, but I do want to thank everybody that came to the meeting yesterday. It was very informative and gives me something to work with. So, thank you all.
Thank you, Meredith. All right. So I think we got everyone. Thank you all for coming. We do appreciate you. And we don't usually get visitors, so we'll take what we can get. All right, let's go to the directors. Questions, comments?
They don't have anything to say?
I think, you guys didn't, no?
Is there
They're all just looking at me.
any possibilities of getting gas lines? You know, natural gas lines?
Yeah, no, we would love to have gas lines up here, but at this point, we don't have those powers, and I'm not even sure where the closest gas line is, the high school. Yeah, Southwest Gas, maybe? Sorry about that.
Southwest Gas.
I'd love to have gas.
It's a different utility.
Yeah, yeah,
I think we all would.
right. All right. No?
Bob, did you have some comments you wanted to make? If you don't mind standing up at the microphone.
Good evening. My name's Robert Howard, and I'm a lifetime resident of Phelan. The property that we're talking about, we have owned for 50 years. And it's been sold once and come back to us. And we had great plans for the community in 2008, 2009, with almost 300,000 square feet of development on that, with a new shopping center, theater. We've got the drawings for an amphitheater. We had retail stores, cobblestone, firelights. It was a Western type theme like they have down at San Dimas. I don't know if you've been down there before, but they've got the same thing. And the bottom just dropped out in 2009. So we've been sitting on it all this time. And the realtor that we have is representing us, she's brought to our knowledge a whole bunch of information that the widening of beg your pardon, of 138 and some of the purposes behind it go way beyond what I ever thought. But things have been kind of taken out of context. She told me, she says, Bob, just tell them something, because all we're trying to do right now is get it to where we can, present it. So we've been to the supervisor, we're going to the planning commission. We haven't pushed anything as far as what we're actually wanting to do there until we have all our ducks in order. And then we'll be able to talk to people that are willing to invest and come up here and do something with this. Her idea and plans is this will be it'll be something that will start this community to move forward. Right now, I've been in business 42 years right here in Phelan. And Phelan is dying for commercial property. Back in 2009, I asked every business in the community if they would be willing to possibly relocate to our 100 acres. There wasn't one of them that turned us down. Not to take it from Phelan here, but to have more opportunity. I have people coming in our business daily saying that there's no place to go, Bob. We want to do this or do that. And so when she come along and she said, just to tell them a distribution center or a warehouse or a truck stop, which is from 15 to 14 is the shortest route. And there's no place really to get fuel for a big rig or something on there. So she goes, it's perfect. It only consumes a small portion of that property, not the whole property. And the water, by doing something like that, the water, as far as the usage, it would be low impact because it wouldn't be like having 160 homes sitting on there. So I just hope that the community will relax because I've been here 75 years, born and raised here, and I do nothing to hurt this community. All I'm looking for is something that we could get started and to be a catalyst for this community to get going, to bring jobs in and help the community grow and to be able to do things. I know I'd like to have a steakhouse there. We've had 2 or 3 people in your supermarkets that want to take first shot. If we open that up, we need another store. Not that Stater Brothers doesn't do a great job, they do. But it'd be nice to have another store or have retail sitting up there that people could utilize. So I just hope that everyone will relax because we're not putting in an Amazon or a Walmart. She says, with things going though on 138 and what the government has 5 lanes on that on 138, and it's my understanding, talking to her, she says, government owns 138. For what purpose? I do not know. And it's the shortest route for, like I said, from 15 to 14, plus you got 30 million people in LA. You have a problem down there, they need a means to move. If you had emergencies and you had something sitting here, I mean, it could be anything, a government unit sitting here on our property, something that'll benefit this whole high desert. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you.
Okay?
All right. Directors. Comments, questions, thoughts? Deborah?
Could we pass if we make a motion, that it'd have to come back to our table before anything?
It will, just by virtue of the way our policy is written, to where it would come back to the board.
Mark?
So the resolution 21805, this policy about sharing the boundaries of Sheep Creek and Phelan came up because during the process of us finding out about this district, we found out that over the first 30 years of the district, there had been both Sheep Creek and the old Zone L and whatever else zone had intermingled itself. And some areas Sheep Creek was serving out of their district, and likewise we were doing the same. And so I don't remember, there were 2. I remember one of them was a house, but I don't remember the details on that. They were going to split a house, split a property, and anyways, I digress. And the second one was this gas station. And so the gas station was brought to the board, and it was, the structure of the resolution and all the attachments were that when Sheep Creek was able to, okay, so the distance to connect that gas station was something like 2,500 feet. And it was the gas station, we had a line right next to, CSD had a line right next to it. And the concept was that when Sheep Creek expanded and got a line close enough to it to hook it up, then they would probably take it back over, as Mr. Bartz had said. And so the concept was we had some intermingling already, 12, I believe, and that was done prior to the formation of the CSD, and that there was a house, and I don't remember the details of that, but also this gas station on 138 that had submitted a form like this to get water so that they could move forward with the construction, based on the fact that Sheep Creek would eventually move their lines over and take it over. And so this property, to me, it's the concept of the resolution and the original concepts of why the CSD board at that time created all these documents and attachments, was that if there were certain boundary issues, and at that time they were all based on usually a single house, or in this case the gas station, small property, that there could be negotiations between Sheep Creek and the CSD about it. And the gas station, as I said, was the Sheep Creek didn't want to, and the gas station could not afford to put a line in the distance that was needed for that gas station to be served. And so by developing this policy, we agreed to service the gas station until Sheep Creek could then eventually take it over. So when I looked at this page 87, which is the plot map of it, there are 3 lines, and one of the lines on Hollister is only 250 feet away. So the policy was designed to assist people on the border of the 2 districts to be able to build a house or build a small, whatever, in the interim. So I'm not quite sure why you're applying for this meter when there is a 8-inch line 250 feet away from the property. So to me, it's a hybridization of the original concepts of why this resolution and all the attachments were created. They were really created to deal with unique situations. And I don't find this a unique situation. So that's my comments right now. Well, there's 3 lines that you can see. There's a 6-inch, an 8-inch, and a 10-inch. There's another one. So on Sunny Slope, it's 400 feet away, and on Hollister, it's approximately 250 feet. And that kind of goes against to me, the original concepts of why the board at the time put this resolution and these attachments together. So that's all I have right now.
Okay. Kathy?
To go off that, so you could hook up, if Sheep Creek would let you have a meter, you could extend their line, correct?
I can answer that, or you can if you'd like. At this point, Sheep Creek is not able to issue a will serve due to the order they have from the state.
Yeah, we understand that, but they're within 250 feet.
Right.
It's not an exorbitant cost.
To do it.
The original concept was that there were exorbitant costs to a house out you know, on the border of the two, where they were 1,000 feet away from any line, and one district had something that was, you know, 300 feet away and the other one was 1,000, and so they could help each other for that. And homeowners, basically, that was the original discussions.
That is correct.
So I don't understand why Sheep Creek couldn't just, or Mr. Howard, pay for the 250 feet and then have the water line right there on the property, and by the time it was developed, Sheep Creek would be drilling their wells and probably get off. So I don't quite understand why you have to apply for a meter from the CSD.
Can I speak?
Sure.
Go ahead.
When we originally talked about this in 2009, the amount of water that we needed for what we had planned, the 8-inch was not big enough. And at that time, our water flow, if I'm not mistaken, was about, our pumping was, we was pumping 4,000 gallons a minute. And when I asked our manager, he said, he sat down, he figured out, and he said, Bob, there's about, we'd have to run a line from our tank across there to feed that. What we have is not big enough. So, and I asked him, I go, well, how much, about how much? And he goes, it's about $1 million to run that line. That's the reason that, I didn't come here to try to get out of a moratorium. I come here to try to get water so that we can put things into plan for what we have, what our thoughts and what we're trying to do for the community. We could get everything lined up and move ahead. That's all. I'm not trying to, like you said, we're on that gas station. If you guys hadn't serviced them, they couldn't have built, because our Sheep Creek did not have a line going over there. So, and you say that it's 200 feet away and it's a 6-inch or an 8-inch?
Okay, at Hollister, there's an 8-inch line 250 feet away from the edge of the property, and at Sunny Slope, there's a 10-inch line. I measured it out approximately 400 feet away. So, I mean, between those two lines, that would certainly be enough, I would assume, to develop, because you're not going to develop that property with a 1-inch meter.
Oh, no.
Well, I'm that's why I said I'm confused. A 1-inch meter is not going to serve that property, so I'm confused about what a 1-inch meter will do.
Can I bring up a couple things and maybe that'll prompt some of it?
Sure.
Okay. So, I'm a realtor. Obviously, I'm thinking that this is gonna help sell your property if you say, well, I have a will serve letter. Again, with like what Mark said, a 1-inch meter is not gonna do anything, you can build a house. I know the county will need a will serve letter for you to go forward with trying to get any plans. But personally, you're not planning on building on there, is that correct?
That is correct.
So whoever purchased this property, they could purchase it and it could sit there for the next 90 years. They could try to start building something, but we're still looking at least 5 to 7 years out. And again, hopefully Sheep Creek will be in service and be able to serve you, and then it doesn't take away from our water supply, so to speak. So I think part of it has to do with marketing, quite honestly.
But you can't.
And I
You
understand.
can't market a 1-inch meter on a 90-acre parcel.
Well, and you would
So-
hope buyers and developers and all those people are going to do their due diligence, which,
Again, I'm asking Mr. Howard, I don't understand the concept behind wanting a 1-inch meter from this district on a temporary basis.
Well, a 1-inch meter isn't going to do us any good.
Well, that's what you're
That's-
asking for.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. All I wanted to know was if we could, if CSD would be able to supply us if we decided to move forward, or
Oh, yeah, so, okay, so what's the 1-inch meter? Why is it in here?
that's what they asked for, right?
Or am I wrong in saying that they were asking for a 1-inch meter?
Typically, excuse me, The 1-inch meter is our minimum, so for
Is that why those
Meter service.
costs were put in here for a 1-inch meter?
For a 1-inch meter, correct. Now, once you get past beyond a 1-inch meter, then you get in more into site improvements and the requirements from the engineer on what that's
But
gonna look
Mr.
like.
Howard didn't ask for a 1-inch meter for this item.
No.
It was just put in here
Just
as
for-
an example?
yes, Yeah. Well, an example is for water service.
Yeah, I understand that. All right. That's very confusing. I'm sorry.
Well, it was probably underneath the assumption that it was 1 inch, and I guess it could have been specified, but, I mean, when you're putting in a request, if you want something different, you better put it in.
Well, so in essence, you're asking for a will serve letter for the entire property, but we need an assessment of the demand before we would even think about that. So
Absolutely.
I don't think we can move forward until we have more information. That's my opinion. I'm one
Okay.
board member.
But more information on what, so I'm understanding. what
Demand,
you mean.
there's a,
Oh, the demand on the system.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
I
We
got
we
it.
have, yeah, we have a system and we have specific, we have well capacities and system capacities. We would have to we would have to have a study on if we're going to, I mean, if the board moves forward on this, we'd have to have a design to service this. It's not like a one-house thing, which this original concept was for.
Yes, correct. The gas station, for example, their request was for a meter. We started with a 1-inch meter. Steno Design, they were the architects for this project and the lead. It was up to the engineer or Steno Design to determine the demand on the size of meter that they need, whether it was going to be a car wash, restaurant, gas station. Could have been a 2-inch, it could have been 1.5, it could have been a 1-inch. Came back and said, well, 1 inch is sufficient.
And we had that information
That
when we went through with the will serve letter for that. We don't have any information on this site.
When the will serve letter, when Juanes came to the district to ask to be served by the CSD, they didn't know what size. This was in 2017. So we weren't sure whether it was going to be a 2-inch or a 1-inch.
Well, but it was a gas
It
station.
was a gas station.
So if there was some green belt, et cetera, whether it was a car wash, but did we have some information before we finalized the agreement to serve it?
We used the gas station that was built within the CSD formation on
We
Baldy
had
Mesa.
we had guesstimates on
Yes.
what was going to be the demand.
Yeah.
We don't have that here. We need some kind of estimates. This is
I
not just
wasn't
like a
asked
single
for any- I
single
wasn't asked
parcel.
for any demands.
But isn't
Just
that what?
you want to
isn't-
do.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Don.
No, isn't that what Don was explaining, that this is just a will serve letter and that it's just giving him, like what Kathy's saying, proof that if somebody buys the property, that water will be accessible to some degree, but they cannot continue until they bring that back to us with the information that you're requesting for us to actually approve it.
And we'd have to.
But
approve
I'm
it
not
again.
going to make a move for this district that may have somebody coming back in the future wanting 6 acre feet a month or something. I mean,
No,
do you
you're.
understand what I'm talking
Yeah,
about
no,
here?
I
Because
understand.
it is a commitment from the district. And without known parameters, I have some objections, so.
Well, and yeah, you're right, and I think we all have reservation about it and want some more information.
Correct.
Again, I go back to my thing, they're marketing it, and yes, they can't build something and take our demand. And we have no idea, which has got to come back to us.
Right.
So Mark, if I hear you correctly, looking at the 8-inch line on Hollister and the 10-inch line on Sunny Slope, if we knew what the demand was, or if Sheep Creek knew what the demand was, and they did not have a moratorium, they could determine if that 8 and the 10-inch, the two lines combined, to feed the site would be sufficient. Because I see what you're saying,
Well,
because
well,
those
look,
lines are
look,
not.
Well, there's 2, 3 lines that could be serviced for different parts of it, but it's all Sheep Creek. Sheep Creek would have to have an analysis to see whether they could supply the amount, as you've already discussed. You discussed this 10 years ago. They would have to look at their capacities to see if they were able to meet max day demands, and they could drill a couple wells and then look at this and go, we can't service this because we'd fall under the max day demand again. So, I mean, without some knowledge of I mean, I do these studies all the time, I have to say. And you know, in order for me to assess the groundwater capabilities of a well on a piece of property, I have to know what the demand is. I can't say that, yeah, you can drill a well and get 20 gallons a minute, but you may need 100 gallons a minute. And then, so then I say, you're gonna have to find water somewhere else. So a well might not service it. So anyways, that's what I'm saying about committing for something. I need to have parameters.
You wouldn't work with the, if we had a letter of intent that you would supply and then work with whoever was gonna come in to build? Hold that back?
Okay, well, so you have to look at the position. A letter of intent means that the district and the board is intending to service the property. And larger water districts can do this all the time because they have much larger capacities. They have, you know, monies to build an extra tank, things like this. I understand that industry and commercial properties basically are why water districts are constructed, because that's where most of their income comes from. This is mostly residential. In fact, we are almost 95% residential. So, so it would be a huge commitment for this district to say that we would have a letter for X amount of acre feet per year, build the infrastructure at a well or a tank or something like that in order to meet that kind of demand, and then Sheep Creek take it over. I mean, do you see the different facets that are, you know what the facets are that are involved in this? It's really complicated. And to put a will serve letter out means that the district has decided that they would service that no matter who bought it.
But
And we don't, huh?
If we decided it would only be.
No, the 1 inch was an example. I didn't realize that. It was put in here as an example of what the fees were for. And I thought he was asking for a 1 inch. He's not. He's asking for a will serve for 90 acres.
Got it.
As far as I interpret it.
That's correct.
Yeah. And so without knowing any demand parameters, I hesitate to commit to anything at this point.
So what exactly do you need?
Well, I know you're just trying to sell a property. You don't know who you're going to sell it to and for what. But the district needs to know, is it going to be residential? Would it be commercial? Would it be a commercial? I mean, what is the demand? Would it increase our system by 8%, 9%? We would have to upgrade our system that much percent just to be able to service it.
Wouldn't the people that are purchasing the property pay for that, though?
Some of it.
I would think they'd pay for all of it.
Well, I think they would probably be paying for all of it, but you're also looking at capacities.
Yes.
Does it require another well? Does it require upsizing of a line or an additional line in there? And I understand what Mark is saying, that if we don't know what the demand is going to be, it's hard to approve something that we don't have.
Let me ask you this. What if the property was subdivided? It wasn't 90 acres. So you weren't looking at such a big piece of property.
It still depends on what you're gonna build.
I thought it was zone single family. I wrote that down.
No,
No.
it's
it's not.
commercial.
Oh, it's
We
commercial.
can have,
Let me
I can
clarify,
have
it's
half acre.
commercial, residential, you could do a church, you could do units, it's basically multi-use.
Yes.
Okay, it's multi-use.
Yes.
And the county
Yes,
has
I
a
have it here if
multi-use?
you wanna see it.
No, I believe you.
So,
Excuse me.
you could put a little bit of anything there. I mean, are you done, or can I say something else?
Fire away.
Okay. So I understand what you want to try to do, Bob. I mean, like Mark had mentioned, like we've all mentioned, we don't know. I mean, quite honestly, if Sheep Creek would have done what they should have done, you could have that property served probably. But, you know, we're back at square one again. And I think somebody online made a comment that we can't drain us for all of theirs. I mean, we help people out. We're a community. We want to help everybody out. Just like you want to do something to help our community. I'm all in favor of development around here.
That's why we have this policy.
Yeah,
Was to help in border
yeah,
issues.
no, absolutely, and I agree with all that. I guess I'm looking from the realtor side of it as well, is that you're trying to sell a property. You're gonna have to try to sell a property and then see what happens. And it's gonna be up to them what they're gonna do. We don't get to dictate that, you don't get to dictate that. I know you're trying to get development in, but I've heard other businesses wanna try to come in too, and they can't come in because they can't get water. So everything is hurting doing this. And it really kind of sucks. It really does. And it's very unfortunate, so, I mean, tell Sheep Creek, let's go.
Well,
Figure it out.
If
So-
the consolidation happened within a very, very short period of time, that moratorium would be lifted as soon as it was signed on the dotted line, and it would open the entire area up to development.
Yep.
Almost instantaneously.
In which we have people who, I mean, being in the business, I hear it. I see it. I have people that would wanted to build a house for the last 3 years and they can't build a house. You know, it's very unfortunate. So I think at this point, I'm not going to
Okay.
speak for anybody else, but it's going to have to come back. And,
well,
you
I
know.
appreciate it. I don't have to give my $80 at least.
I don't know. We spent some time on it though. No, teasing.
Well, thank you very much for
Thanks,
your
Bob.
time.
Appreciate it.
Everything this evening. Okay?
Thank you for
All
coming.
right,
You bet.
thank you.
Well, did you have some comments?
Well, I had a question, but, I mean, we kind of already, but anyway, for Mr. Kennedy, for future reference for myself on this resolution 7200, since I wasn't around when it was signed, is there anywhere in there that, Mr. Roberts was talking about, well, it's so close, why wouldn't he just use somebody else? Is there anywhere in the resolution that we had to take that into consideration about how close it was to hook up? That we wouldn't allow to do the out of area?
Well, I think in looking at the resolution and the backup materials for the agenda, if you look at page 92 and 93, and I think for me, trying to understand where we are in the process was sort of, I guess, important, because then looking at 7208.01 at the bottom of 92, that sets forth the procedures for these kind of requests. In 7208.01.1 states that the property owner shall provide a written request to the district stating the parcel number, the parcel address, the total acreage, the intended use of the property, and the property owner's contact information. Looking at the letter that was sent by Mr. Howard, the intended use of the property seems to be distribution center, warehousing, or truck stop servicing. If the board were inclined to move this proposal forward, it seems to me that the process that we would be at is at 7208.01.4, which says staff will review the request, submit to the board for approval to proceed with LAFCO approval, creation of water letter and agreement, and legal. That would then lead to 7208.01.6, which then says upon receipt of LAFCO approval, staff completion of water letter, agreement, and legal review, the board will review and possibly approve the water letter and agreement. So it seemed to me we were at 7208.01.4 with a possibility of going to 7208.01.6 at a later time. Still not issuing the will serve letter that is being requested. because we're not at that point in time. That would be a later point in time, subsection 6. The water letter that is, the will serve letter that's included in the materials talks about in terms of on-site water plans being required for plan checks and other conditions that would be imposed on the will serve letter. You know, before we would bring back that will serve letter as part of an agreement at the point 6 stage, we would probably want to tighten up that agreement so as to deal with whatever conditions that the board were to be concerned with at that time in considering whether to move the proposal forward from a point 4 stage to a point 6 stage. So it seems to me that even under any circumstances, there would not have been a will serve letter issued tonight. And that during the point 6 stage, we would be able to address any project specific issue that had come up. So I think that that's where the board has flexibility in conditioning its approval on whatever factors that the board feels is relevant at that when considering the proposal. So what I'm hearing is that with respect to this property, in light of the size of the property and the fact that there's a lack of clarity as to what the intended use will be, that what the board is saying is that that is not enough information to move it even to the point 6 stage. And that's fine, because that is certainly the board has discretion on whether to move forward from the proposal from a point 4 to a point 6 stage. But at no point, at least in my mind, could the board have approved the will serve letter tonight, because we haven't got to the point 6 stage.
I agree, Mr. Kennedy. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Mr. Kennedy, because it would based on what I interpreted was it would be stuck on the 1.4 for years, basically, or until the property was then. It wouldn't be a wills. He was requesting a will. He was requesting a will serve letter in order to mark, or to sell it. But we wouldn't be able to do that. That was where I was having the problem. There was no. I mean, with the gas station, we knew it was going in, but there's no information at this time. So would it simply be stuck at 1.4 with the fact that the board had not issued anything?
Well, there's two ways to do it. Having it stuck at 1.4 certainly makes sense for that very reason. Other approach would be the board could move it to a 1.6 at a later date, and then have the will serve letter be written in such a way that it would be conditioned on a lot of factors, including as long as the demand did not exceed X amount, whatever the board felt based upon the information that was presented, that would not create problems for the district in providing service. So that there's a lot of ways that it can be conditioned to deal with that if the board wanted to give direction to move on to 1.6 at a later date. But the boards also decide, no, we don't have enough information to get past 1.4 at this point in time, and that's appropriate as well too. So I think the policy was written so that the board had discretion in a case-by-case situation to do either one of those things. But the one thing it couldn't do tonight, in my view, would be the issue of listening.
No, it was just a conversation on whether to proceed. But I have a question on 1.4, whether there was enough information that staff could review in order to submit some information. He didn't know what was going to be built on that.
I will answer that. And I do agree that we should have had more information on that, requested more information. I take responsibility for that.
So basically, we're not even at 1.4 if there's nothing to it for our staff to assess. That's how I was interpreting it.
I don't think he really knew what was gonna happen with that. He's listening to somebody that's gonna be in pie sky dreams, like, hey, we're gonna be able to sell your property for $6 million. We're gonna be able to rah, let's go.
Yeah, yeah,
That's all he
agree.
knows. That's
Well,
all he knows.
and I understood that, and he was trying to do something for community, but the board has a policy, and it has to follow this policy.
And you brought it.
There you go. Okay, I'm
And I
gonna,
was trying to figure out how we could even get to 1.4.
right.
And I couldn't figure out a way.
I'm still going to be nitpicky, Steve. So let's just pretend that we were considering doing this, and Mr. Roberts' comment about how Sheep Creek Water's meter was 250 feet away on, the pipeline was 250 feet away on Hollister Road. Does the policy state that it has to be within a certain amount of feet in order for us to approve the will serve letter?
No, that's, the board has, the board's ability to entering into these types of agreements is not tied to a particular length of distance to a meter or to any sort of, it was intended to deal with fact-specific situations where under those situations, under fact-specific situations, there would be an ability for the district in Sheep Creek to agree to allow for the district to serve outside of its boundaries. And it wasn't specifically tied to that. Now, it may have been applied in that way in the past, but it's not hardwired directly into the language of the policy. How the board wants to implement that policy is certainly up to you. This is not something that's statutory or written into any water or government code. This is a policy that the board has based upon exercising the will of all parties involved and having express consent of all the parties involved.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right, so what kind of action?
Well, can I make one additional comment? Oh, yes, go ahead.
Would you go up to the microphone for me? Thank you.
My name is Peter Barnes. So it just seems to me, based on the discussion, I would think that we're actually at 1.1 in the resolution because the intended use of the property is not clear. We have potential intended uses, but no actual intended use, and that until there's an intended use, it would be difficult to move beyond 1.1, even to 1.4. That's all.
The intended use of the property was stated in there, but it wasn't clear.
Well, there are multiple.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
right.
It's multiple zoned right now, so there were multiple uses that were stated in there. So, but I do agree that they should have that.
Yes, that was my main point, was that I can't personally move forward on a giving him some hope even without more information for him to move forward and potentially commit the district to something that we don't know what it is. So,
Yeah.
Good point.
So I understand, I said multiple, but it's an or. It was an or an or, not an and. So there's multiple possible intended uses, and I'm saying
Yep.
that
Good
according
point.
to this resolution, wouldn't it need to be, this is the intended use, and then CSD would explore?
that's,
This proves that our policy works.
that was the policy designed.
Very well written.
And so just from my final comment, if the staff wants to talk to Mr. Howard, who left, about getting something more specific, then we might be able to move to 1.4, but not at this point.
You know, in reviewing and listening to the comments of the board tonight, Mark, I think you had a very good point when you talked about the water lines, even though it's not a specified distance in our policy, but there are water lines that are adjacent to the property. Typically, the one that we've had before was a couple thousand feet away from an existing water line and could not be served without $1 million worth of water line to serve a single entity like the gas station that you're referencing. If we knew the entire intended usage in detail, there are a couple of lines that are within a reasonable distance. Now, whether those lines could adequately serve this, where that fits into the policy, whether it's there's lines but they're not adequate, how the board would want to deal with that. But I do agree, there are a couple of lines within a certain distance that could potentially be used for that, even though we don't know the capacity for the lines, and the capacity is probably not there. I know he's referring to Chris. I'm not going to put him on the spot, but that would be something that could be considered too. But I think the biggest part of this at the moment would be the issue of the moratorium.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate.
Okay.
Because 1.4, 1.5, staff has nothing to review. With the gas station, as I said, and the other home, it was a home.
That's correct.
We had a concept of what the demand would be.
Absolutely
You know,
correct.
1 meter, 1 inch, or 2 inch. It's still, within certain parameters that the board could be comfortable with. This is too open. We don't have any idea.
Yep, agreed.
He didn't know either.
And he didn't know either.
There you go.
All right, so what kind of action do we need to take on this item?
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
You guys have a good night.
You too.
If there's no motion to approve this item, then the item just dies.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. All that information is very helpful.
Yeah, thank you. All right. He's a smart guy. That's why we keep him around. All right, let's move on to number 7, committee reports. Engineering.
There's information in the packet, the minutes. If you have any questions, Kathy would be glad to answer them.
It's her
Yes,
turn.
I would.
I don't have any questions, do you?
Oh, no.
Okay, all right, so finance? What? Finance, you're up again
Finance, we meet,
in October.
and I'll go to the board secretary for that.
Yeah, you meet in October, next month.
Okay.
All right, legislative.
Although, real quickly, a special meeting will probably be scheduled pretty soon to review the draft audit report.
For
The draft audit, a special meeting for finance.
finance, okay.
Yeah, so heads up, that's coming soon.
Okay, thank you. All right, legislative?
We meet in November.
All right. Park, what?
No, that was the last meeting. Aren't there minutes in there? There should be.
Yeah,
There are minutes from our last meeting back in
August.
Almost a month ago. Wow.
I know, where does the time go? Park and Rec, nothing new, and we meet again in October. And solid waste and recycling,
We met on the 11th of August. Our minutes are in the packet. And we've really been going over the 1383 issue and what it's presenting for us and working on the concerns of the public with minimal producers
right.
and all the issues that come with that. And our next meeting was going to be scheduled for tomorrow, but it got rescheduled to a week from tomorrow.
Okay. All right, 8, staff and general managers report.
Yep, just like to give a shout out to staff. They had a 16-inch line leak on Sunday night. I think it was around 9 o'clock at night. It's on a holiday weekend
Oh, yeah.
again, and staff handled it flawlessly and got it patched up and back in service by about 3 in the morning.
Did SCADA detect it?
I'm not sure how the leak was detected. I know there's water coming out of the ground. I don't think the volume of water was where SCADA would show it, but we did probably receive a call for water on the ground.
Nice.
16-inch line, 6 feet deep.
Yeah, that's a lot of water. Okay.
All right. Any other questions on that? Nope. All right, moving on to director's reports. Director Phillips.
I attended the CSDA conference, and one of the breakout sessions I attended was on neurodivergency and how much we're seeing it being a means of better communicating differences between us. And that was quite fascinating. I was very pleased to know that we don't have anywhere near the number of problems that other districts seem to have. That was very, very comforting to see that we are very fortunate with how well our system is ran, with our general manager, with just overall system. I'm very thankful for how you guys all keep things
How to
going.
deal with water bottles being thrown at you and things like that.
A lot of people have a lot of very complicated problems compared to the ones we have. I'm very thankful for the staff we have and the community that we have as well.
Yeah.
So that's it on mine.
All right. Director Hoffman?
I have nothing, thank you.
All right. Director Roberts?
I just wanted to get a heads up. I'm thinking of attending the Aqua Conference in October, November,
December.
December, whenever
One
it
of
is.
one of those months.
The fall. That's it.
All right. And I have nothing new to report, so we'll move on to 10, correspondence.
Just our regular billing schedule is in the packet. Can you believe that November is in there?
I know.
It's coming up. Family movie nights continued. We had pretty good turnout last week, right, Jen? Even though it was the first home game for the Diamondbacks. So we had to compete, but still about 30 attendees, and the radio station showed up, so that's nice. We have 2 more events for the rest of the year. So this Friday is Wonder, and then September 16th is Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Nice.
And then our conservation flyer is in there. And just keep it on your calendar, September 10th. So coming up here real quickly, we have our oil filter exchange that's hosted by County HHW. That's over here at AutoZone, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And that's all I have.
What do you have to do with that? Bring a filter in?
Yeah, they exchange it.
Give you a credit?
Yeah, you can bring in a used filter and they'll give you, I think it's an AutoZone gift card for up to $15. Yeah, oil filter voucher.
Nice. Okay. All right, so moving on to 11, review of action items. Were there any prior meeting action items?
There were none.
And current meeting action items?
I'm registering Director Roberts for Aqua.
Thank you.
All right, number 12, setting agenda for next meeting.
Yes, so I've noted that we will be removing the Sheep Creek consolidation item from this agenda. And if you guys have anything else, just let me know.
All right, anybody have anything? No? All right. So at this time, we will now recess to closed session at 7:59 p.m.